Thanks everyone for joining for this event on a short notice. So I would like to welcome you all to the event organized by IISc Wellness Center, titled "You're Not Alone." So today's guest speaker is Mr. Nelson Vinod Moses. He's an award-winning mental health journalist whose writing has been featured in a variety of prestigious outlets. He founded Suicide Prevention India Foundation when he lost his friend to suicide, and he had stints working as in various places, including Yahoo and as a journalist in Business Standard and Business World. With that short note, we thank Mr. Vinod and we welcome him for joining us today on a short notice. So over to you now. And sharing slides. Is that fine? So you must be able to find a link to do so. Let's see.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Pratik. Thank you, Tamarai. I don't know whether you can hear me properly because my voice seems to be echoing, at least.
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. It's my great honor and pleasure to be here today under such maybe unfortunate circumstances. But it's never too late to talk about a subject like suicide. And in fact, the reason why a lot of suicides happen is because of the fact that we don't talk about it enough. And if you're not aware of something, it's difficult to address it. The most important thing that we need to understand is that suicide is the most preventable form of death. And it's rather unfortunate that something that is so preventable is not acted upon. The awareness is lacking. There's a lot of stigma. There's less, almost, very little research. There's lack of political will and not enough of investment, not enough of trained personnel. There's not enough of policy in this area, and therefore it's unaddressed. It's like a black hole where we do not what we don't understand, we don't research. But the most important thing to realize is that the moment we put a light on something like suicide, it fails to be in the darkness and it's out in the light. And the important thing to understand about something like suicide is that the more you understand it, the easier it gets to address it, right? So thank you, everybody, for having me here today. I want to encourage you to ask me questions. I don't know whether Microsoft Teams allows you to interrupt me by just unmuting yourself, or the host can, or you can post all your questions in the chat, and the host can, just ask me the question. I prefer to stop in between and to answer the question rather than keeping it at the end. We have enough time. There's 90 minutes, and no question is silly or stupid or is it part of the topic? Yes, everything is part of the topic. You have a question, just ask the question. If it's something that can be addressed outside of this forum, I will address this out of the forum. Otherwise, I will address this right away. All right. So that is my understanding. I want to tell you that I'm, as Pratik has described, I'm a survivor of suicide loss myself. I lost my best friend to suicide, and it was unfortunate. My best friend was the football captain of our school. He's part of the Mad Ads team. He was a handsome young lad, good looking, well built, the funniest person I've met. And, due to lack of mental health diagnosis and treatment, he slipped down a very dark path, and eventually it led him to die by suicide. In fact, he tried even before attempting suicide to reach out to me. So 2 days before he died, he reached out and he asked me for help, and I was supposed to take him to NIMHANS because at that point in time, this happened a long time back. The only places that I knew was to take him towards to NIMHANS. And at that point in time, when I called and inquired, they said that the outpatient department was open only on a Saturday, and I should come on a Saturday. He called me on a Wednesday night. By Friday night, he passed away. And I think if I'd known that he was suicidal, that we could have done something for him. That's unfortunate that we did not know. I was reading Atul Gawande, Dr. Atul Gawande's The Checklist Manifesto, and it talks about how millions of lives are lost due to ineptitude. The fact that we do not follow protocols, right? You're all are scientists, or you're a scientist in the making, and a scientific inquiry, or is based on a scientific basis, or anything that you do, an experiment, a pilot project, you need to publish a paper, is based on data, and it's based on protocols. The same with suicide, the same with mental health. Just because we do not understand what is going on in our heads well enough, and that is mostly because we are not putting enough effort into understanding what is going on. This knowledge is available. It's available in plenty. And like I mentioned, there is a lack of awareness, and this is mainly due to stigma, because we don't talk about it. And also because in a country like India, there's not enough of research, there's not enough of money being put into it, there's not enough of personnel. So if you were to do a simple Google search, right, and you look for AI researchers, yeah, go ahead and do that, and you'll get a lot of responses. Try and look for suicidologists in India, right? Look for suicidologists, those who study suicide as a topic of research, right? I would be extremely surprised if you found a handful, or even one. If you do let me know, right? So we have 2.3 lakh suicides in the country. And this is data that is coming out of the Global Burden Disease Study. If you ask the Indian government, they produce data from the National Crime Records Bureau. That's 1.39 lakh suicides. Okay, you take 2.3 lakh suicides. For every suicide, there are 25 people who make an attempt to die by suicide. So we're talking about the millions. And for every suicide, there are literally there's 100 people who are actively thinking and ideating about suicide. So we're talking about 23 million people who are doing that, right? And unfortunately, we constitute 18% of the world's population, but we contribute to 37% of women's suicides. That's 37%, all of you. This is ridiculous. This should not happen. And 25% of male suicides. So 18% of the world's population, 37% of women suicides from India, 25% of all men die from suicide, die globally by suicide are from India, right? So this is unfortunate. However, the good news is that suicide is the most preventable form of death. And all of us, all of you right now can play a role in preventing suicide. Not only suicide of other people, but also to help yourself when you're suicidal, all right? How can I present? Do I just use Open Tray? I'm not very familiar with Microsoft Meetings, so how do I present?
So you must see an arrow on the top right corner of your
I
window.
see that desktop window. I hit it, and it says Chrome tab, and then I'm going to go to the thing. Okay, great, fantastic. Okay, here we are. All right, can everybody see this?
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
I would like to issue a trigger warning to all of you who are attending here right now. If you are feeling triggered by my talk, I am going to avoid any specifics related to suicide or self-harm. Please take a photograph of this right away and keep this with you and call them. Okay. I want you to reach out for help. The first thing that we're going to do. So if you hit a roadblock in class, do you have lab partners? I'm assuming yes. Do you have supervisors? I'm assuming yes. Do you have mentors? I'm assuming yes. Do you see any scientific discovery that happens in a silo? It doesn't. So if you seek help for, if my toilet gets clogged, I call somebody and that person comes. Does that make me stupid? Does that make me feel, less intelligent? Does that make me that's something wrong with me? Does it? I don't think so, right? For anything, we make sure that we reach out for help. I was just thinking about the other day where, we are very aware of our physical bodies. We take care of it to a great extent. Every day we wake up, we brush our teeth, we eat some breakfast, we shower, we put on some nice clothes, we wash our faces. If you have hair, unlike me, you're going to comb your hair. You're going to make sure that you shampoo it, and so on and so forth. It's very important, right? If you have a piece of machinery that you're going to be using, a laptop, a mobile phone, you're going to make sure that you're updating, the software or the patches or the bug fixes. There's an antivirus built into it, right? Everything, even a simple piece of machinery these days has a lot of technology behind it, and technology needs to be updated. Sometimes it crashes. Now the brain is such an awesome thing. It actually runs everything in your body, right? That is, and also within your brain you have what is called the operating system. The operating system more or less gets built in the first few years of your life. What does this mean? I mean, it just means that we play out most of the scenarios from our childhood over and over and over again. What this also means is that any interaction that you're going to be having, like let's say with your professor, with your friend, with a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whoever it is that your partner, it's the same scenarios that are going to be running over and over again. What does this really mean? It means that if they say something, most of the time you're not responding from the present moment. You're responding from a past experience, which is embedded in your unconscious, which is the limbic part of your brain, which is the most ancient part of your brain. And we react mostly from that unconscious. We're not consciously reacting because we're not fully present. We're mostly reacting from the past. So, and that is built into your very survival system. So this is kind of how things are. And the prefrontal cortex, where there's a lot of which is the front part of your brain, which is the modern part of your brain. Unfortunately, for a lot of if you are below the age of 25, or even if you are below the age of 30, the prefrontal cortex, where executive functioning, reasoning, logical thinking, thinking about the consequences of your action, emotional regulation, mood stabilization. This is literally like the brains of suppose you're riding a scooter or a bike or a car, right? You have an accelerator, and then you have the brakes. You accelerate too much, there's an object in front of you, there is danger, your brain says hit the brakes, correct? Now the prefrontal cortex in the human brain is exactly that. It allows you. So if the brain is flooded with emotions, let's say you're suffering from grief, uh, you've been insulted, you've been humiliated, you've been betrayed, you've been dumped, you've suddenly been told that your grades are suffering. Your brain now is flooded with a lot of emotions. These emotions are extremely powerful. They are like putting the accelerator on your car. The prefrontal cortex's job is now to kind of like make sense of all of this, reasoning, logical, and making sense of the whole thing, and regulating your emotions and stabilizing your mood. Unfortunately, the prefrontal cortex is not fully developed for most people who are below the age of 25 or 30, and they can't apply the brakes. So you're driving a Ferrari, but what you have is bicycle brakes. It's not going to work. So you're on that trajectory, right? So how can you deal with something like this? You deal with it by asking for help. You deal with it by um, using medication, right? So you have a flu, and the flu is not going to go away for a week or 10 days. You visit a doctor, and the doctor says, I'm going to put you on a course of antibiotics. So that fixes you immediately. So I had COVID in March, and I've recovered quite well, thank you. I'm back to my regular routine. I play football, I go to cult, I cycle, I box, I do a number of things now. Thank you. Um, but I had to take steroids because there were issues with my lungs. And I took them blindly because the specialist said, "Hey, you should do this," right? The pulmonologist said, the guy told me that he's treated about, thousands of patients. And I believed him because I went and checked him up on Practor and other places. And I actually saw that, what he's saying is true. And there were ratings and there were reviews. So I did some inquiry and I found some a basis to believe him. And I took his word for it and I followed up and it really worked. I was scared of taking the steroids. I said, what's going to happen to me? Is my own body not going to, make the immunity? But I took it and it was helpful for me. Right? The same way, we need to seek help uh, when we are not feeling all right. Okay, before we get started, do you have any questions? How's everybody feeling? Do you have any specific questions around this? Is there anything that you want me to address? Is there anything you want to say before we start? I want to first of all, say sorry for the circumstances we're meeting under, but then again, this is very, very much required. So after a suicide, there's something called postvention. Postvention is the steps that we take to reduce the pain, increase the healing, understand what happened, and hopefully build a new narrative, which tells us while we are all very alike, we are all very unique as well. You may be alike that you're all students, you're part of IISc, however, the circumstances, your backgrounds, your experiences, your genetics, your biology, your environment, your mind space, your personalities are very, very unique. And therefore, please understand that don't start to identify with what happened. Even if the circumstances are the same, mostly the narrative will say, oh, this person died because of that, right? So don't identify. You are unique and you can seek help. Is there any questions to get started before I start my presentation?
So there is one question in the chat box. You can take
Okay.
it now or later. It asks, are there not serious side effects of these medications?
Right. Great question. Okay. So yesterday I was meeting the Deputy Director of Mental Health, Dr. Rajni for Government of Karnataka. And we were both talking about suicide and we were just swapping stories. And then she mentioned that she met with this very senior police officer. She was married, she had 2 kids. She was suffering from what is called postpartum depression, which usually occurs after giving birth to somebody. And during this time, she felt like her husband was not supportive, her in-laws were not very helpful, and and she was going through a lot of issues, and she was actually wanting to, a trigger warning. I'm going to get into some specifics. She was actually wanting to uh, kill her 2 children and then kill herself. This happens quite often. As you would know, the media loves to highlight these stories. These are what are called homicide suicides, and this happens to a lot of in a lot of cases with mothers. So she came to visit Dr. Rajni, who's a psychiatrist. Dr. Rajni immediately realized that she was clinically depressed, and she prescribed some medication. Within 24 hours, the senior lady police officer came back, and then she said, I felt like, yesterday I felt like it was dark. Today I can see all the colors. And then she realized that it's not that the husband was not supportive. He was very supportive. It's not like the in-laws were not helpful. They were quite helpful. And her world was dark because of the lack of medication. And to answer your question, are there any side effects to any medication that you're going to be taking, to anything that you're going to be ingesting into your body? There are side effects. There are positive side effects, and there could be negative side effects. The important thing is to understand, the way the positives and the negatives, and then take a call. And in the case of, let's say, if your foundation is weak and the building is going to collapse, or if you're just, walking in the dark and you're stumbling, it is important. It's imperative, especially if it's a matter of life and death. The side effect is either, you dying by suicide or you're living. I would say take the medication, and the side effects, thanks to modern science, is mostly manageable. And you can also reduce your medication after a while, after you stabilize your foundation, after you because most of the time, once your brain starts to think clearly, because I told you, it's like a switch which has gone off. People who are suicidal, I will come to that, are basically suffering from this this cognitive breakdown, where they're they feel like they can't deal with the circumstances they dealt with, and there's a cognitive breakdown, a distortion and a dissonance, and they're unable to think clearly, and therefore they are unable to apply themselves. And because they're unable to apply themselves, they can't solve the problem that's right in front of them. So they lose problem solving capability, which can be as simple as paying a bill, as simple as saying, I need to take myself right now to a doctor. So side effects, there will be side effects, but the positive side effects outweigh the negative side effects, and the negative side effects are manageable. And also you can start to reduce the medication, and in some cases even totally eliminate it. I hope I have answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. There are two more questions. One is, how does one deal with the guilt of not doing enough for a friend uh, who might have reached out for help but then succumbed to suicide?
Right. What's the name of the person who asked this question? I can't see it.
Nabanita Paul.
Nabonita Paul. My name is Nelson Vinod Moses. I am the founder of Suicide Prevention India Foundation. So Nabonita Paul, I lost my best friend Ryan Bennett to suicide, and I suffered greatly during this time. However, I've realized that during that time, with the knowledge and the experience that I had, I didn't really know that this person was suicidal. Although my friend Ryan did reach out to me and said that he needs help from a mental health professional, and he reached out on a Wednesday night. I want to repeat to you that he called me, and I called my friend who's right now the medical superintendent in Nimhans. His name is Dr. Murli. Murli and me went to school together in Germans. I called Murli, and Murli said, please bring Ryan on Saturday morning. The OPD is open on Saturday morning. And I called Ryan back, and I said, Ryan, I will pick you up on my scooter, and the two of us will go together to Nimhans, and we will help. We'll deal with this. And this was something that I did quite often. He suffered two accidents. He had traumatic brain injury, and he had doubling of vision. And I would take him to Dr. Agarwal Eye Hospital, and we fixed his doubling of vision. So I thought that on Saturday morning I would be taking him to the hospital, and we'll work on the problems that he was talking about. Unfortunately, he died on a Friday evening, and this happened a long time back. But I've been able to deal with it. I want to personally offer you my condolences. I want to offer you my support. If you need help, I'm reaching out to you directly and saying, reach out to me. This is my I'm sending you my email ID on chat, and I hope you can see it. And this is my phone number. WhatsApp me before calling me, and I will help you through this. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel frustrated, guilty, shameful, and like you've not done enough. But right now for you, please understand that this is not your fault. The responsibility squarely dies with the person who died by suicide. You are a survivor of suicide loss, and we are currently coming up with a guide for survivors of suicide loss. and I can help you. And I went through what is called surviving, and then I went through sustaining, and then finally I went through thriving. So it doesn't, so I'm helping other people with the problem of suicide. I do this full time. I've been doing this for the past 4 years. So you do not necessarily have to do this full time, but what I would invite you to do is, at some point in time when you're ready, to do the gatekeeper training. The gatekeeper training will help you to recognize signs of suicide. Just like I said, right? I'm reading Atul Gawande's checklist. There are millions of lives lost because people don't apply the proper protocols related to helping somebody in an emergency situation, in an inpatient or even in an outpatient situation. Because although we are very heavily trained, we do not follow the prescribed protocols at every given point in time, which could help save millions of lives. And this is lost due to ineptitude. Basically, we have the knowledge, we don't apply the knowledge. Same thing, the gatekeeper training will allow you to recognize signs of suicide, will allow you to have a conversation, will allow you to persuade the person, provide them with emotional support, and then refer them to a mental health professional. And I've been doing hundreds of thousands of I don't know, hundreds, maybe thousands through, directly, indirectly, phone calls, emails, and so on, related to emotional distress and suicide prevention. I haven't lost a single person to suicide. It does not mean that at that point in time, when I made the intervention, they didn't go back and say, I'm going to go and die now because what you told me doesn't make any sense. So please remember that the gatekeeper training is a World Health Organization recommended suicide prevention strategy. We do this training, and I would urge all of you at IISc, and I will coordinate with the wellness committee to organize this. And we are present in 1,000 colleges globally through a partnership with QPR Institute. QPR Institute have been been around from 1999. So gatekeeper training, we've trained 5 million gatekeepers so far. A lot of them are students. It's evidence-based, research-backed, peer-reviewed, globally accepted best practices. So you know that what we do works. Coming back to you, Nabonita, take a deep breath. What you're feeling is what is called complicated grief and loss. You are going to feel extremely in pain, and you need what is called grief counseling. I would urge you to reach out to your wellness center and talk to them about it. I'll also provide you access to a grief support circle. If the wellness team wants us to do a grief support circle, we can do that as well. Okay, there are many more questions. What I'm going to do is, I realized, yeah, how to identify trigger warning. Okay. It's okay. There are questions. I'm going to start my presentation, and feel free to, ask more questions in chat. It's 9:30. We have an hour more. I'll finish my presentation in half an hour. We'll spend another half an hour answering all those questions. All right. So here's cause for hope. How to identify, right? People are giving you 8 out of 10 people who are suicidal are giving you warning signs. These warning signs are verbal, non-verbal, and they're written. Once you're able to recognize these signs, you're able to have a conversation. Having these conversations will mostly result in the person feeling better, and they will not attempt suicide. 9 out of 10 suicide survivors will not go on to die by suicide. 7 out of 10 suicide survivors will not even make a second attempt. So this is a beautiful website. It's called livethroughthis.org. Please go through it. It's stories of suicide survivors. Hundreds of stories of suicide survivors. So if you know somebody who's kind of struggling right now, please, talk to them, as well as send them this. If you are a suicide survivor yourself, go through this website. It will give you hope, right? So that's cause for hope. So let's talk about suicide clues and warnings, because if you don't know, you will not be able to help. So these are verbal signs. There are direct and indirect. They'll say, I've decided to kill myself. I wish I were dead. I'm going to die by suicide. I'm going to end it all. If such and such doesn't happen, I'll kill myself. Very easy if they are direct, tough if they are indirect. I'm tired of life. I just can't go on. My family would be better off without me. Who cares if I'm dead anyway? I just want out. I won't be around much longer. Pretty soon you won't have to worry about me. What you're going to watch out for is any sign of hopelessness, that they've lost all hope. any sign of helplessness, that they feel that nobody can help them, any sign of worthlessness where they say that I'm useless, I'm a burden, I'm good for nothing, I'm a piece of shit, I want to end this all. And they feel trapped. They will say, I'm in this situation, I don't know how to get out of it. Okay, a lot of these situations that they're going to be describing for a lot of people is what is called precipitating factors. Or these are factors where they're caught up in a situation where they are unable to talk about it. Suppose you are, let's say, you lost your parent to COVID, right? Very easy to talk about it. Say, my mother died. If you're in a financial distress, oh my God, I'm not sure how I can get through this. Academic problems, you're saying everybody knows already. So you're going to say, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I came here with stars in my eyes. Like right now, all I feel is like darkness. Right now, I have black holes in my eyes. I'm dropping in this this darkness. I'm not sure where the bottom is, and I feel like I can't get out of this. This is just pulling me inside. There is no hope for me. Right? It's very easy, but there are a lot of circumstances that as humans we deal with it, which we find difficult to talk about it. These are related to bullying. These are related to discrimination. These are related to toxic working environments. These are related to abuse from a close partner. These are related to gender related issues or sexuality related issues. These are related to addictions that you have, that you feel you're afraid to talk about it because there's a lot of stigma around these addictions. And a lot of this is falling under the realm of what you'd call unethical, immoral, frowned upon by society, which can even be illegal, right? So in a different country, smoking pot is a public health issue. In our country, it's related to crime. There could be a college policy which is that makes you look like a criminal. So I had a father who reached out to me, and he said, my son is a criminal. He needs to be locked up. And I was like, why? What happened? And he said he smokes pot. He brings these random guys into the house and they smoke together. And I have a young daughter, and I am afraid of her safety. All valid points, right? But his response to his son smoking pot is to call the police commissioner and tell him to pick him up and lock him up, which is not ideal. Any drug abuse is actually a public health issue. Drug abuse is actually a mental health related issue. Any substance abuse is actually a public health and a mental health issue. I want to repeat this again. In Iceland had the biggest problem in all of Europe related to teen and young adult drinking and drug abuse. It was frankly pretty embarrassing for Iceland. And they had all kinds of interventions, none of them worked. So they brought a behavioral scientist. The behavioral scientist just looked at this problem, and he looked at it through two lenses. Okay, so he said those smoking, those are abusing drugs which are stimulants, are suffering from some kind of depression, and those who are abusing, let's say, something that can like alcohol, which is a depressant, which suppresses your central nervous system, might be anxious or something related to that, ADHD, a lot of other things. So he just introduced 3 or 4 concepts. Okay, number one, they had a night curfew, which was different from summer and for winter. So you couldn't be seen out in the streets after a certain time. So those are what are called stick incentives, right? There's the carrot, which is which is basically dangling something, which is like a reward, or you have a punishment, which is the stick. So carrot and stick. So then they also said they recommended that all families have at least one meal together. Very strange, but very important, because we have what is called we are digitally connected, socially isolated. And Emily Durkheim, this a French sociologist who's written the most maybe researched work on suicide, which was actually published in the 1800s, said that suicide happens because there's a disconnection with ourselves, and there's a disconnection with the people around us, and there's a disconnection with society. And therefore, when this happens, there are many reasons, but said that the person would die by suicide. So coming back to the Iceland experiment, and the third thing they said was, for all of you who are anxious, they prescribed yoga, meditation, swimming, something to calm you down. For those who are depressed, who needed to be stimulated, they said, we'll give you free access to gyms, skating rinks, any activity, playground, football, whatever it is that will stimulate you because you're depressed. 5+ years, 10 years, or within 5 years, Iceland, which had the biggest substance abuse problem in all of Europe, now has the lowest. They didn't throw people into prison. They didn't, tell them that didn't publicly shame them like this father did. And that changed it, right? So each problem that we are facing, if we look at it through the lens of saying, how can we solve this? And then say, what is the problem? So a lot of alcohol substance abuse is actually linked to childhood experiences, or what is called adverse childhood experiences. It's linked to trauma. So please go and watch this movie, which is called Wisdom of Trauma. It's incredibly good. It talks about the link between trauma and addiction. And addiction is anything. Your phone is an addiction. We seek it out because our brain lacks some chemicals, and because it lacks it, it will seek it out from other things. Addictions are related to porn, drugs, sex, food, overwork, people pleasing. Anything is an addiction. Shopping, the need to be, constantly the first in class. Whatever it is, an addiction is basically, the brain hits a kind of like, let's give you a reward right now, a dopamine fix. And digital addiction is the worst addiction because stress, anxiety, depression, self-harm, suicide ideation, suicide attempts, completed suicides globally and India have been rising over the past decade. And guess what? There's a graph which shows the rise among young people, and there's a graph which shows that very clearly. And guess what also happened along with the same graphs increase? It's the introduction, the rise in popularity of the smartphone, the rise in popularity of social media. Why is this a problem? Because uh, the smartphone and social media. So this is basically your casino. This becomes a place where you can get porn. This is a place where you can shop. This is a place where you get instant gratification for almost anything in your life. And unfortunately, we are over flooded with dopamine, which is the reward chemical. Earlier, you had to do a bit of work to get your rewards, which is to say that you had to work hard. Um, if you wanted to get that reward, right now you can just get it in the click of a button, right? We are overflooded with dopamine. What does this mean is that whenever there are rewards, your pathways will also deliver the negative experience. So you will also have the hangover. You drink, ooh, it feels so good. Damn it, you're also going to come down, right? It's the same thing. So one of the first things you can do is install something to track your amount of time that you spend on social media. Understand the harmful natures of social media, and understand the harmful natures of using the smartphone. Do a simple test for smartphone addiction. It's called this is actually a phobia. It's called nomophobia. Related to the phone, nomophobia. Uh, look this up, and try and do a test for smartphone addiction and social media addiction. If you're addicted, basically it means that your rest of the things that you're doing is not working properly. So please, keep an eye out on that. This is affecting you a great deal. It's affecting your sleep. It's also it's kind of, the brain is, yeah. So the brain is basically neuroplastic. Can you hear? Sanjita's asking, is the audio low for everyone? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, it's working fine. But your slides, I don't know if you have moved your slides. It's still on the slide number 5.
Great, great. So I'm going to move ahead now. Okay. Uh, so here's what you need to watch out for warning signs. These are behavioral clues. Any previous suicide attempt, stockpiling pills, co-occurring depression, moodiness, or hopelessness, putting personal affairs in order, giving away prized possessions, sudden interest or disinterest in religion, drug or alcohol abuse, or a relapse after a period of recovery, unexplained anger, aggression, or irritability. These are the warning signs. So the person might be eating too much, eating too little. Watch out for other things. They may start to isolate themselves socially, and so on. These are severe acute behavioral warning signs. If you see anybody like this, please physically take them to a clinic because they may be at high risk of suicide. All right. Suffering from severe anxiety and turmoil, unable to calm down even for a short time. They're pacing, wringing their hands, can't sit still, have trouble focusing, look like they want to jump out of their skin, ruminating about the same thing over and over again. For example, an irrational fear and cannot be calmed down. They cannot be easily redirected and return again and again to the same topic. Unable to sleep or stay asleep and have gone to sleep for several days. Anybody who has trouble sleeping, a lot of students, a lot of people are night birds, they're insomniacs, right? That is fine that you've found a way to sleep. But if the person suddenly does not cannot sleep at all, it is a it is basically a serious mark of a near-term suicide attempt. Many nights without sleep presents great risk. Many suicidal people will say, I just want to go to sleep and never wake up. Suffering delusions, false beliefs of doom and gloom, and a belief that something terrible and unavoidable is going to happen. We had a 20-year-old who's basically, luckily for him, he spoke to his mother. He was suicidal. He said that there's a demon in my head. The demon is telling me to go and die by suicide. The demon in my head is telling me to do all kinds of crazy things. I feel like there's something really, really wrong with me. We got him in touch with a psychiatrist. He was diagnosed with OCD. He started meds. He started to become. He became much better. He started his mixed martial arts. He got into a master's program, and he posted on Instagram talking about OCD and medication, and then how he got help. Right? Great success story. We need to celebrate this. And for somebody who asked about medication, medication sometimes is necessary. His side effects is that he was able to not be suicidal, started his mixed martial arts again, became more expressive, is now like almost like an advocate for OCD. Started a master's program as well, right? So anything can happen. Watch out. It'll be very irrational when somebody tells you that. So somebody will say, "Hey, you know what? If I go to sleep, I'm going to get COVID." Somebody will say, "I feel like my neighbor is plotting against me." All kinds of false beliefs. You don't invalidate what they're saying. You say, I hear what you're saying. You're saying that your neighbor is plotting against you. This must be really painful. This must make you feel pretty upset. You don't say, no, I don't think that the neighbor is plotting against you. You don't say, I don't think there's a demon in your head. How stupid is that? Please don't invalidate, don't minimize, don't belittle. Okay, you validate feelings, validate thoughts and experiences, and then you say, can you tell me more about how this is making you feel? Suffering from recent alcohol intoxication and over drinking. Alcohol use may be an effort to self-medicate and alleviate insomnia and anxiety. It's also a way to reduce the pain they're feeling. Risk factors: a prior suicide attempt, abuse of any kind, emotional, physical, mental, sexual, especially during childhood, is traumatic. And I mentioned that this is called an adverse childhood experience. And ACE, adverse childhood experience. You can go and do a test for ACE. ACE indicators, if there are too many, are the biggest indicator of you having a mental health related issue now or later on in life, right? But it also means that now that you're aware, you can also deal with it, right? And the earlier you deal with it, the better it is, because you are literally going on with life. We've all heard of emotional baggage, but this is literally going on with life with a lot of pain. It's like a thorn stuck in your foot. It's festering. It's become, there's a lot of pus around it. There's a lot of pain, and you're walking. It's not ideal. If you remove it and it heals, you can start to walk and you can start to run. So a lot of you who are carrying a lot of burdens inside your head, you need to unpack it. You need to get this over with. So this is going to affect you in every aspect of your life, right? So I had undiagnosed ADHD. I didn't really know about it. Recently, when I was in a workshop, somebody said I'm researching ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, right? And the person said, there is something called rejection sensitive dysphoria. I said, what is rejection sensitive dysphoria? The person said, if somebody you love or you're close to rejects you, ignores you, insults you, you spiral into the state where you're, like I said, you become emotionally dysregulated and your mood is destabilized, and you can even become suicidal, and you become depressed, and that is internalizing it. And the externalizing it is an angry outburst, which can seem very illogical to the person, because the person may have not said hi to you, and they may not have actually said hi to you. They may not even have seen you, but you have seen them, and you felt like this person has rejected you. So that can lead to, or if you're go through a breakup and the same thing can happen, that can lead to you feeling even suicidal, especially for those with ADHD, on what are called neurodivergence. There are neurotypicals. 20% of the population is neurodivergent, to a certain extent, anything from 5, 10 to 20%. 20% of the population, 15 to 20% of our population has common or severe mental illnesses, right? So this can really impact you, and can lead to a breakdown in your key relationships, and can affect you at work, and can really hold you back. And you will think of this as a personality flaw, saying, why am I like this? And you will start to, but it's a neurocognitive disorder. So the wiring is faulty, and this can be helped through medication, through exercise, through nutritional psychiatry, which is the increase in omega-3 fatty acids, and also through psychotherapy, which can be CBT or DBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy or dialectical behavioral therapy. Okay, so you don't need to take medication. Currently, I am not taking medication, but I'm exercising like a fiend. I do nutritional psychiatry. I hack nutrition, and I also I take therapy from a dialectical behavioral therapist. Misuse of abuse of alcohol or any other drugs, please don't do it in a way that starts to affect other aspects of work. Mental disorders, particularly depression or other mood disorders, access to lethal means, knowing somebody who died by suicide, social isolation, chronic disease and disability, lack of access to behavioral health care, belonging to marginalized social groups. These are all risk factors. They increase your risk of suicide. But the risk does not necessarily mean that you will die by suicide, because suicide is multi-causal, it's multi-dimensional, it's complex. What you hear in the media is just the trigger for suicide. People will say, oh, this person died because they had a love failure. I hate that word, love failure. Or they'll say that they were performing poorly in academics, or they were there was some other issue. That's just the trigger. Please remember, there's more than one reason for suicide. Protective factors. So protection against suicide or mental health illnesses is like vaccination against COVID. So right now I got COVID. I'm COVID resistant, which means I have a protective factor. So protective factors either are inherent, or it can be learned. And it's the easiest thing for you to fight any mental illnesses or suicide. So effective behavioral health care, if there's an undiagnosed mental health issue. So seek out mental health help, whether it's a psychiatrist, whether it's a therapist or a counselor, they will help you. If you don't feel like talking to any of them, call a helpline. If you don't feel like calling a helpline, there are many chat-based services that you can reach out to. If you don't like all of that, reach out to a friend, reach out to anybody that you trust, for anything, right? So whatever the problem you're going through, there's always a solution. That's why I said, once you're aware that there is a solution, you can seek it out, and you start to feel better almost immediately. Okay. And there's always a way out. You're feeling helpless, there is help. You're feeling hopeless, there is hope. You're feeling worthless, hey, tell you what, your life is important. You are precious. You are important to somebody. You're important to yourself. Social connectedness to friends and family. Please make friends now. Life is not all competitive. A lot of scientific discoveries and Nobel Prize winners are hugely collaborative. this is the time to make friends. How do you make friends? You can just make friends by just saying hi. You can smile. You can say, how are you doing today? Would you like to have a cup of coffee? Start by, start to experience something with them, a hobby. I play a lot of football. I meet a lot of people. Um, Also appear vulnerable, right? So at 19, my father passed away. When I was 24, my best friend died by suicide. When I was 25, my mom passed away, right? I openly talk about struggles. I've been suicidal, actively suicidal for weeks and months on end, and I've been able to deal with it. I have ADHD and I have unresolved trauma, which leads to a lot of abandonment anxiety and so on and so forth. I openly talk about it. And when I talk about it, I let myself be vulnerable, and then that allows for a lot of conversations. The moment you start talking about saying, because we all human, right? Saying, oh, I have problem with my work, I have problem at home, or this happened to me, and that happened to me, allows for more open conversations. Life skills in building emotional resilience. I spoke about saying, when there's cognitive distortion, we're unable to solve our problems. Most of the problems that we face in life can be dealt with through building life skills. What life skills do you need? Number one, I would say, is learn how to communicate, learn how to understand your own emotions. So if you're not so we are mostly not taught about our emotions, our feelings. So you're not in touch with your feelings. If I were to ask you how you're feeling right now, you're going to struggle with talking about how you feel right now. Okay. There are about 6 basic emotions and there are 5,000 feelings in the world, right? So there is something called a feelings wheel. Go look it up and start to talk about it a lot more. If somebody says, how you're feeling, right? We mostly say we're angry or we're sad. There are a lot of other emotions at play, right? I'm enraged. I'm disgruntled. I'm exasperated. There are a lot of words to describe it. The more in touch, so start to write about what's going on. Because most of the time you'll be like, right now I'm angry, but there are everything is at a spectrum, and you can write down what you're feeling. And if you're in doubt, go online and look for the feelings wheel, and you will be able to do that. So when you're in touch with your own feelings and you're able to label your feelings and emotions, you're able to articulate them. The moment you're able to articulate your own feelings, especially men, because we don't emote, you'll find that the other person will also respond back to you. Okay, so life skills, conflict management, relationship management, financial literacy, and so on and so forth. How do you talk to, how to be more assertive without being aggressive, how to speak up for yourself. All of this is important, because if you're not assertive, if you don't speak up for yourself, you're not expressive, you'll have other problems which are manifested physically. Teeth grinding, bruxism, talking in your sleep, many having IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, any issues with your stomach, which are mostly related to unexpressed emotions. It will show up one way or the other. Even acne, all kinds of things. Because you can't suppress these emotions, they will have to come out, and they will come out in road rage. It will come out in various ways. You will be drinking, you'll be smoking up. All of this is related to a lot of trauma. Addiction, the gateway to addiction is actually trauma. We're self-medicating. We're trying to deal with the pain. All right. So please forgive yourself for that. It's okay. Be compassionate and practice what is called radical self-acceptance. Because we are most of the time feeling shitty about ourselves. It's easy to hate yourself. Self-loathing is easier. So practice the Buddhist concepts related to self-compassion, radical self-acceptance. You can do all of these courses online, and emotional resilience. I said that, I lost my father, my mother, and my best friend in a 6-year period. Uh, I was able to bounce back because I'm emotionally resilient. I am very spiritual. I can rewrite the narrative of anything that happens, and I will say this is basically the universe sending me a message, and it's shaping me, and it's shaping my future. And we listen well enough, you can redraft your narrative, saying, this happened to me, and because of this, I'm going to become a totally new person. There are courses available on Coursera for building emotional resilience. Please do them. There are courses available related to self-compassion. There are courses available for mindfulness meditation. Neuroplasticity, basically your brain health, can change every week and every month and every year. And even when you're 50 or 60 or 70, the brain can regenerate. So brain health can be changed at any point in time. And there are ways to do that. Mindfulness meditation, yoga, eating the right foods, omega-3, and so on and so forth. There are many foods. Look up nutritional psychiatry, and you can eat foods. So there are many links, right? We are like, oh my God, I'm addicted to sugar. So I recently found out there's a link between ADHD and diabetes. What is the link? Those with ADHD lack dopamine transmitters. So when, basically your mind is the biggest pharmacy in the world, it will supply you with a reward when you do something useful. So let's say I've delivered this talk and all of you are like, oh my God, wow, Nelson, what a great speaker. I've learned a lot and everything else, and I will apply this right now. Most of the time, my brain is not rewarding me with dopamine. Even after that, I'm like, okay, I still feel shitty about myself. And therefore, it'll seek it out through anything that can offer dopamine. So the easiest way to get dopamine is through sugar and through refined carbs. So I will seek out refined carbs and sugars. It delivers dopamine instantly. And because of that, there's a lot of people become diabetic, or you're stressed and anxious a lot. So, the stress and the anxiety could lead to high blood pressure. And then, because there are three parts to the brain. One part is the resting brain where there is no activity and you're just resting. The second part is, basically where salience, the salient part of your brain will say prioritize tasks. And the last part of the brain, which is, the prefrontal cortex. So that which kind of says, go do this now, action oriented, will say go do this, and then you get a reward that the brain will reward you with. In an ADHD brain, you're mostly in the resting state. There's no salience saying prioritize, and there's no action oriented saying do this right now. And therefore, you may not even exercise, and therefore you will choose to remain by not exercising, so you can get hypertension, which is high blood pressure, and then you can also have cardiovascular disease. Combine that with diabetes, and boom, you could die in early death. And many people will be like, this guy had no control over sugar. He was lazy. He didn't exercise. But if you have undiagnosed ADHD, a lot of people live with undiagnosed mental health related issues. You're going to suffer. So please seek help. Self-esteem and a sense of purpose or meaning in life. It's very important. Read this book called Man's Search for Meaning, written by Viktor Frankl. He was there in the Holocaust, in the concentration camp. Many people died. He survived because he had a purpose and a meaning in life. He says that is more important than money, respect, popularity, recognition, having a sense of purpose or meaning in life, whatever it is, right? Cultural, religious, or personal beliefs that discourage suicide. This is very important as well. Non-suicidal self-injury is basically self-harming physically through whatever means in an attempt to alleviate your emotional pain. I'll repeat, physical harm to alleviate or reduce your emotional pain. So there are substitutes for this. You can hold an ice cube. You can tie something around your wrist tightly. You can go for a walk. You can have a cold shower or a hot shower. Drink something cold or very hot. If you are feeling very agitated, dunk your head in cold water. It will reset your parasympathetic nervous system. Or if you don't have it, put ice cubes to your head in the back of your neck, and it'll have the same effect. If you're feeling very anxious, cut a lemon and squeeze it and put it into your mouth and suck it. It'll bring you back to the present. Do a quick deep breathing exercise. Look it up on YouTube. 10 minutes of deep breathing exercises, self-soothing, will help you. If you want to sleep, there are meditations for sleep as well. There are many ways to deal with self-harm. Worry about self-harm if the intensity of the self-harm increases. Worry about self-harm if the kind of different ways of self-harming increases, because that can be a predictor of a suicide attempt later on. Question, persuade, refer. This is a simple method. We will do the basics. So if you find that there are signs of suicide, immediately ask the person, directly or indirectly. I see that you are in a great deal of pain. When somebody is in this much pain, sometimes they feel like giving up on life. Are you planning on giving up on life? Right? Indirect, direct, kind of direct. If they say yes, then say, I'm sorry that you're feeling this way. How does this make you feel? And they will talk, and then ask another open-ended question. So when somebody says something to you, immediately just validate what they said. How do you do this? You'll rephrase what they said last. So you say, I hear that you're saying that your father passed away and you're in a great deal of debt, and that is making you feel insecure, unhappy, and scared. That must be really painful for you, right? And then open it up and they'll talk more. And once you realize, and then you say that, you are thinking of ending your life because you feel that that is the only solution. That must be really tough for you right now, carrying this kind of decision and this pain and this also, this frustration. I'm really sorry about it. Can you please come with me? I know that with the right kind of help, that you can feel better. And once you feel better, you may be able to come up with more solutions. So could I please take you to a mental health professional? So that's the persuasion. And then finally, you refer them to a mental health professional. The best referral is physically taking them. So yesterday when I met Dr. Rajani, Deputy Director of Mental Health of Government of Karnataka, she was talking about a High Court judge who, sought help for her depression and started to feel better. And there was another colleague who refused to come, who refused to believe in this, but because she did it, he was ready to come, and she physically took this person, and it's worked out fine. So first, the best way to refer, physically take them. Second best is to fix an appointment and make sure they go for it. Third best is give them a list of uh, places they can get help and follow up on that. Please remember that you need to, this is a 3-step process. Don't jump steps and refer somebody immediately. They will not go. QPR is not intended to be a form of counseling or treatment. QPR is intended to offer hope through positive action. Tips when feeling suicidal: talk to someone whom you trust, call a friend, family member, or a colleague. Tell them how you feel. As tough as it seems, this feeling will pass. Wait it out, do what you want, go for a walk, pray, do laundry, visit the park, call a friend, take a nap. Think of all the reasons that make life worth living, list it down, including those who love you, those whom you love. Don't drink or consuming drugs. You have anything that can use to harm yourself at home or wherever you are, get rid of it. Pills, razors, sharp objects. Don't stay by yourself. Ask a friend or a family member or anybody to come over. This is what is called putting somebody on suicide watch. If you can't be there physically for someone, be there on the video chat. If somebody can't come to you, you be with them on a call. If nobody is there, call a suicide crisis helpline. Have a safety plan when feelings get intense. Have the number of a suicide crisis helpline, friend, therapist, or a hospital. So the safety plan will tell you what to do. When you're feeling suicide, it'll say get rid of all the sharp objects, anything that can harm you. Call a friend. Immediately stop drinking alcohol or doing any drugs. Go to the nearest hospital. Call somebody in so that they can be with you. Have all of this on your phone or have it on your bedside. Have it on your fridge, because you may not be in the physical mental state to actually think about saying, where is my safety plan right now? Keep it in a place which is accessible. Again, your life is precious. You are important. Your life is worth living. Promise yourself that you will seek help and give yourself that chance to get help. Call a helpline or take a auto or a taxi or call a ambulance service. We have a free list of ambulance services available throughout India. Most of them are free. We have a list of clinics and hospitals in India which provide free mental health help. If you're in Bangalore, reach out to me. I will put you in touch with places where you can get that help. Many people are suicidal. It's nothing to feel bad or ashamed about. I felt suicidal for many days, weeks, and months because of something that happened to me. Luckily, I got help and I feel much better now. Okay, so you are not alone in this. Please eat nutritious meals. Don't skip your meals. Sleep 7 to 8 hours a day. Have the same routine. Exercise. If you don't like exercising in a gym, go for a walk. If you can't go for a walk, do yoga. If you can do none of this, just uh, do mindfulness meditation. Get in touch with nature. Develop close relationships that are authentic, non-transactional. Meditate, pray, do spiritually enriching activities. Find time to do something fun. Read, listen, or watch motivational, inspiring books, movies, or music. Talk to a therapist when you're stressed. Don't overconsume alcohol. caffeine or drugs. Remember, almost all efforts to persuade someone to live instead of attempt suicide will be met with agreement and relief. Don't hesitate, get involved, take the lead. And that's my contact details. Reach out to me at any point. We have 25 minutes. I will take questions now.
Ask a question, Dr. Nelson. Thank you very much for a very interesting and educational talk.
Yeah, my pleasure.
What's the role of positive psychology that you see? Because, we talked about taking care of suicidal tendencies, whereas positive psychology is about a life worth living. And if somebody is living a worth life living, suicide will not be there on the horizon at all.
So what you're saying is, keep a positive state of mind, right? But the problem.
No, I'm not saying that. There is a science of positive psychology which is focused on life worth living, as opposed to traditional psychology, which was focused on fixing what is wrong. So I want to. My question
so
is
you're talking
about
about gratitude. Looking on the bright side, and there's a science behind this about saying, why can't we be more flourishing? Why can't we basically focus on the benefits of life and basically what makes life worth living, right? So focusing on our strengths rather than on our weakness. So that's what I was talking about when I said protective factors, and that's what I was basically referring to by saying a sense of meaning in life, a sense of purpose in life, having a self-worth, and so on. Which and I also said, when people write a suicide note, they say, why is life not worth living? And then I also said, write down a list of factors which say, why is life worth living? So I'm not mitigate. I'm not saying that there is nothing which says that you're facing a problem or you're saying life is not worth living. I'm saying, okay, I hear you, I see you. I'm also asking you, what is it that is worth living? So yes, building on your strengths and repairing your bad, and essentially being grateful, looking for activities that make you happy, inspire you, or and then building gratitude, resilience, compassion. I spoke very a lot about. I also want to talk about something which I really love. It's called unconditional positive regard. Unconditional positive regard is by Carl Rogers. Unconditional positive regard is different from unconditional love. Unconditional positive regard is basically when somebody regards you positively regardless of the condition that you're in. I spoke about precipitating factors in life, where life will always deal with something where people will say something to you, you'll have a breakup, there will be something that happens which is unethical, immoral, even illegal, but people will treat you badly and so on. This can be related to all kinds of circumstances. However, if you have one friend who treats you with unconditional positive regard, it means that that person will look at you positively and say, your action was bad, you are not a bad human being, right? So the focus is on well-being, on gratitude, compassion, where you're treating another person with kindness, and self-esteem, self-confidence, hope, and elevation. So you're absolutely right. All right, can I move on to the next question?
Thank you.
You're welcome. There are many courses I'm going to put here that are available on Coursera related to self-compassion. So look them up. They're all free. There's also this Buddhist center in Dharmashala. It's called Tushita Meditation Center. The courses are available online. Please do this. It also provides neuroplasticity, that your brain chemistry itself changes. So even if people are treating you unkindly, your nervous system will be so regulated, your emotional state will be so regulated that you will respond back with compassion. You'll say, I see that you're angry with me. I see that you're being mean to me. I see that you're in a great deal of pain, and you will deal with them with compassion and kindness rather than getting angry or getting hurt. Yeah, very important. Okay, I'm going to go on top. Let's start with the right on top so I answer all questions. I'm going to do this very quickly. Can you? Okay.
Would you like me to just find the questions and read out to you?
Yeah, right from the top.
Yeah,
Or let me read that out to myself, because when I read out a question, it helps me understand it.
absolutely.
Just tell me,
Go ahead.
is Ijaz Ahmed's question,
Yeah,
uh, Navneeta Paul, then Jaiprakash Anand? Okay. How do I identify that that is a trigger warning? Sometimes we feel that is normal stress. The difference between normal stress and a trigger warning is that in your mind you start with ideation saying, I feel like I want to end my life, I want to sleep and never wake up. I feel You don't feel like getting out of bed. You feel like I said, right, life seems dark, there is no color, there is no joy. You feel like you don't want to talk to people, you want to isolate yourself, and you no longer engage in activities which used to give you joy earlier, right? So be very careful. And people say that you look lackluster, you look like you're not happy. So that is what you need to look out for. Um, what if other people tell you indirectly or indirectly that you are worthless at your workplace? How can you help and get over such thoughts when you and your surroundings have the same opinion? So the most important thing for you to understand is that your self-worth is not related to the work that you're doing. Also remember that the person who's telling you that may be biased about you. Maybe you're in the wrong place. So maybe you currently are going through a situation in life which is not allowing you to focus all your energies to do a good job. It's perfectly fine. We're all growing at our own pace. The most successful entrepreneurs in tech entrepreneurs in the US are between the ages of 43 to 45. So you will grow at your own pace. Most scientific discoveries happen when you're in your late 30s or in your 40s or even in your 50s or 60s. Read Malcolm Gladwell's book on late success. So don't be forced when somebody says you're bad at your work. Just tell them that I'm learning, or just tell them that I'm not in a place right now to kind of like speed up. Maybe so always don't let other people's opinion affect you. Your self-worth is not related to work. You can do fantastic work at any point in time. If it's affecting you, reach out to a therapist. They will be able to help you to deal with the circumstances. And the previous question, which is to say that don't focus on your weakness, focus on your strength. Gratitude, self-compassion will allow you to treat yourself kindly. Radical self-acceptance will allow you to accept everything about yourself and say, I am a worthy person regardless of what people tell me. I think we must have mandatory sessions like these every semester to sensitize the IISc community, just like lab safety sessions. As the speakers pointed out, the issue has been addressed through a peer-reviewed, evidence-based scientific process. So thanks to Lakshmi Narayan. We'll come back with, doing the gatekeeper training. We'll also train all of you and certify all of you as gatekeepers so that you can help anybody in your vicinity. You'll be able to do this immediately. You will know when something is happening. You'll also be aware of your own mental health related issues and help yourself. There are three aspects to self-care. There's a pyramid. The bottom is self-care, being aware of your own self, and then dealing with this your own self. Like suppose you have an accident, you go to the orthopedic, they fix you, then you go for physiotherapy, and then the physiotherapy will tell you go home and do these exercises, right? So the same thing. There is a psychiatrist who will fix you like an orthopedic. There's a counselor who will fix you with talk therapy. Finally, they'll say go home and do this, and you can strengthen it. And sometimes if you have an issue with your back or your knees, you can strengthen your quadriceps, your hamstrings, and then the weakest part of your body can become the strongest part of your body. And this will help you in everything in life, whether you need professional success, personal success, you want to be recognized, whether you want to feel happy and all of that. So thanks for saying that. A lot of students who comes through from the LGBT community are already struggling from mental health, probably resulting in internalized homophobia or some homophobic environment around them, low self-esteem. They already feel disconnected from the surroundings. What can IISc as an institution can help students with sexual minorities? Izaz Ahmed, thanks for asking that question. In a lot of IITs, they already have. I don't know whether you have this in IISc. They have a club or a community related to the LGBT community. So the sensitization needs to be done where, first of all, there is training for acceptance so that you feel that you're not alone. You should be able to talk about it in a safe environment where you feel safe to other people who understand you, so you don't feel alone. And then and then the entire community needs to be sensitized, because right now in most companies they have diversity and inclusion, and they just like somebody mentioned there's POSH training, which is prevention of sexual harassment at the workplace or at colleges. Once they're trained, they know what they need to do, and they know the language to be used when they're communicating. So this is very important. If you want a separate session on this, we can organize that as well. I agree with Lakshmi's point. I suggest IISc should conduct semester courses, including mental health, emotional resilience, and teach about understanding your own emotions, way of seeking help. Mohammed Sajid, thanks for saying that. Say, most importantly, I can speak so articulately because I underwent a 40-hour session related to listening and interpersonal communication. I learned how to listen. I learned how to recognize my own feelings. Before that, most of the time, we are not aware. If you're not aware, how do you speak about something? So the same way, up until the time I realized that I had ADHD, I had no idea. Luckily for me, I have access to, really good psychiatrists. So I met somebody who's considered as India's foremost psychiatrist related to ADHD. We had a 1.5 hour conversations, and he has ADHD himself. So I could feel free to talk about it, and we were able to talk about it. And once you know what is going on with you, like let's just say I used to eat a lot of sugar and carbs. My mother died at 62 because of diabetes. Probably she had undiagnosed ADHD, and there's enough scientific basis to suggest that there's a link between ADHD and diabetes, and that's because there's lack of dopamine. There's a lack of dopamine. You'll seek out something which will give you that dopamine. And what is easily available? Sugar, carbs. We gorge on those. Other addictions, lack of exercise, and boom, and one day you suffer an early death. And people will say you're lazy, but you're not lazy. So we need to understand ourselves better. When we understand ourselves better, we are able to express it. We develop a vocabulary to speak about our own issues and our own emotions and feelings, and you feel more empowered because you're able to talk about it in a way that other people are able to understand. And then when they understand, they also respond back saying, yes, my friend, my mother, my sister, me, I've gone through the same thing. All of us are the same, except that we can't see it, right? So if somebody says, hey, I'm Scorpio too, or oh, I'm from Tumkur too, oh, you're from here, and then you start to build a bond. Over here also we need to do the same thing. For somebody told me that it's easier for me to come out as gay than for me to say that I have a mental health related issue. Why? Because the movement for LGBT rights is sometimes far ahead than mental health related, or because of a lack of awareness and so much of stigma, right? So there is pride, and on this day everybody moves and they talk. They are just coming out and talking about it and are proud about it. The same way with neurodivergence. I'm a neurodivergent. 20% of the population is neurodivergent. The rest of them are neurotypicals. We need to claim our space and say, I'm neurodivergent and I'm proud. And if you have a neurodivergent friend, family member, you should say, I'm an ally. I have observed that many students making vulnerable students feel that they have psychological issues, even though the vulnerable students may not have it. A type of gaslighting exists in IISc student community. It is therefore important to seek professional help. As a student community, they can help identify the case, and certainly seek professional guidance is required. Sanjita Sharma, very important that you seek professional help. Very important that you accept who you are. So I am ADHD, and if somebody tries to, say I have psychological issues, I'll be like, yeah, I am on the spectrum. And, ADHD people were very important for humans to stay alive. In the primitive tribes, ADHD people, attention deficit hyperactivity meant that when everybody else were focusing on something, ADHD folks, their attention constantly wavers. They were able to spot danger. And when they could spot danger, they alerted the tribe and they kept the tribe alive. It's just that in modern environments, they don't know how to fit in because they're poor executive functioning, they're disorganized. You need to be able to create environments for them to thrive, and they will lead the way because they also have hyperfocus and they're extremely creative. So they will actually push the realms of science. So own your neurodiversity and say, I am diagnosed with something. Don't say I'm depressed or I'm anxious. Say I have a diagnosis of anxiety, a diagnosis of depression and so on. So you don't identify the disorder, the illness with yourself. That's not who you are. That's not who the primary identity is. So that's what we need to do. And the more we celebrate it. So Hindu College, New Delhi, they have a beautiful Facebook page where they celebrate this, where they have stories of people who come from small villages, people with gender and sexuality, diversity, and they talk about what happened to them, that they went through the same thing, maybe bullying, discrimination, got gaslit, and then they spoke about it and how they sought help and how they're feeling better. This is what is called role models for health seeking. If you want to start this, awareness, reducing stigma, and then create role models and ambassadors, we can help you with that as well. There must be a mandatory course on mental health for all of us. IISc academic section should take the lead. Yes. I don't know. Can you please share the name of the books you have mentioned? The name of the book is called Man's Search for Meaning. For all of you, reach out to me personally in my email ID if you have any questions later on. I will answer that. By Viktor Frankl. Okay, just tell me if I'm missing any questions, okay? Because I'm moving fast. We have a quasi-LGBT support group. It's not affiliated or recognized by IISc. It's an informal group. You should get this recognized. IIT Guwahati, and I've spoken to them. Can you please share the link of courses I referred during your talk, Sanayogita? Just search for personal resilience, self-compassion, mindfulness, meditation. All of these are free courses available on Coursera. Mindfulness, meditation. And look for even psychological first aid. These are all available on Coursera. I'm sure that all of you are aware of Coursera, right? Okay, so I'll just put that down. Omega-3 mostly, like I said, is I'm using it for my ADHD. My psychiatrist told me to do it. There will be different things based on what you have, your deficiency, and if you can hack it with food and exercise and doing meditation and yoga and nature and having a hobby and so on, and doing the course on personal resilience, you will not need medication at all. Okay. Also, we got so many info about number of suicides. Similar category, class caste community. How deep is the connect with external factors like genderism, racism, casteism, discrimination? How can be addressed in suicide prevention? Yeah. So these increase the risk of suicide because you're being discriminated, you're being bullied. But also there will always be underlying causes. So I will be very scared to say that there's a direct relationship between caste and suicide. It increases the risk, but it doesn't mean that. And yes, we need to address all of this, and I can't talk about all of these answers immediately because it's something that needs to be dealt with at a policy level, at a peer level, at an awareness level, at an educational level, at a knowledge level. Healthy nutritional habits. Please don't do a lot of sugar. It's terrible. I'll tell you what not to do. Don't have a lot of caffeine. It'll make you more dysregulated. Please sleep enough because it'll make you irritable and your mood won't be the same. It'll also make you crave more sugar. Please don't do a lot of refined carbs, processed foods, fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, also protein, gut bacteria. A lot of our there's a direct relationship between gut health and mental health, and there's a depression also. So have a lot of probiotics. Can you have a nutritional psychiatrist on campus? I can organize a talk related to nutritional psychiatry. Please share resources, shed some light on undiagnosed ADHD. Please write to me, Manpreet Kaur. I will share more resources. Otherwise, let me do this right now. You get a lot of resources online, but I would also recommend that you meet a mental health professional because there's no. Somebody asked me, how can we diagnose ourselves? There are Sanayogita, there are a lot of self-diagnostic tools online. That you can do, but that's not a that is not a substitute for going and meeting a psychiatrist. And even psychiatrists are very scared to diagnose you right now because sometimes it's very difficult to do the diagnosis. If you've had ADHD in your childhood, that's the biggest indicator or a predictor or whatever that you're going to have adult ADHD. Even after consulting with a counselor, sometimes it doesn't make you calm. What do we do in this case? You'll have to do the rest of the stuff, right? You'll have to learn more about what is going on with you, understand your own emotions, a lot of self-care routine. If you're unable to sleep, then you do mindfulness meditation or you do a lot of exercise. There could be so please remember that there's a lot of issues. So a lot of issues are not just mental, they're physical as well, right? And we are unable to like diagnose it. Sometimes you need a diagnosis. So we had somebody who's suicidal. The gatekeeper put the person in touch with a psychiatrist, and she thought that she was suicidal because of a breakup with the boyfriend. It was actually PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Premenstrual dysphoric disorder is a form of depression, and there are a lot of women who die by this because they are undiagnosed and untreated. Somebody else was very suicidal. They got hospitalized, and then the main reason was apparently endometriosis. So the person had to undergo a hysterectomy, and they felt better. Somebody else thought they had they were feeling suicidal because their boss had put them on a performance improvement plan. This can happen to you also. If somebody, you're not doing well academically, you'll say, I'm depressed, I'm suicidal because of that. It can be actually something undiagnosed and untreated. And in this case, we put her in touch with a psychiatrist, put her on meds for depression. Later on, this person was fired from a job, but she felt better because she was on medication and therapy. I think everyone feels that he may have some ADHD problem. How can we figure it out? Please visit a psychiatrist. I've shared a self-diagnosis, but that won't give you. Don't think that if the test is positive that you are positive, with negative that you're negative. It'll give you some indicators. How to deal with adverse side effects like weight gain when we are on medicine? You will have to, first of all, realize that maybe when you're healing your brain, maybe you're sometimes you may be putting on weight. So your physical thing takes a toll, but some of my friends who are on medication, they run a lot. Some of them are doing other kinds of exercise. They swim and so forth. So you'll have to find what works for you. Physical exercise, or you take the right kind of nutrition. So talk to a nutritionist. So even if you're eating well, and they are eating the right food, so you're not gaining weight. And it's okay to gain weight. And if that weight gain, you need to also, like I said, radical self-acceptance. Talk to your counselor saying this is affecting me. That'll be helpful. Psychiatric medicines are responsible for weight gain. Not all the time. Maybe in some cases, I've already told you that I have friends who are on medication. Not all of them have gained weight. Yeah. If some of them do, then, like I said, you should try and find ways to deal with it, which could be that either the input or the output, right? The input is how much food you eat. The output is the exercise that you do. Can you share the PPT? I'll try and share. Write to me. I will share. What is it that you want? Exact information on the PPT. Which concept? I will share more. Okay. Are there any questions that I missed out on? Okay. Vidya is asking how important it is to being in one space. How can you manage to remain in one space by evading others' opinion or suggestions if they're not meant for you? So one is, like I said, be more assertive. One is, so you verbally tell them that you need to understand what I call, read up about being assertive and boundaries. So you need to have personal boundaries, and also developing a sense of self-worth, which will allow you to take any criticism. So you can tell them, please don't tell me. I understand what you're saying, but I don't think this is something that is useful for me right now. And I'm not looking for solutions. If I want any recommendations, I will let you know. Okay. Kindly share the slides with all IISc members. Yeah, I can. I will share as much information as possible. Request the speaker, am I right? In my opinion, while yoga, games, all of this, no substitute for medical help. Yeah, there is no substitute. for medical help. I think I've been repeatedly saying that there are medical and non-medical interventions, and you should seek. You need multimodal treatments. I don't recommend one or the other. You are absolutely right, Lakshmi Narayan and Sheshadri. Sometimes you need medical help. Sometimes you need a medical intervention, which could be medication. Sometimes, in my case, I'm not taking the medication, but I'm doing psychotherapy, which is also professional mental health. I always recommend professional mental health. Also, meet with a general physician because they will tell you a lot of things that could be going wrong. And meet with a psychiatrist. Can you please suggest some good nutritional psychiatrist? I will. There's a page I follow which is very helpful. I'll try and send that information to you. I forget what the name of the page is. Please reach out to me. Send me an email. I'll reach out. Any question I haven't answered, or any question you want to ask me? There are some new messages. Okay. Very informative. Such information should be happen online. Yeah. Yes. Policy peer level is important. We can have a mental health policy with a suicide prevention strategy. You all started a peer group. We can help you with this. Okay, great. This is fantastic. Okay. How do you join your team or wellness center or IISc? You want to volunteer to prevent suicide? Please reach out to the wellness team. Reach out to me. I will tell you how to volunteer as well. We need more people involved. We have a 4,000 strong gatekeeper community. We're going to start that as a pilot on Facebook. And then we're going to have a website called gatekeepercommunity.com. So all of this will be very helpful. Can you, any more questions? I can take more questions if you have them. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your participation and all your questions. It's really helpful. All of you attending here today, can we take a photo of this? Can we take a screenshot? It'll be helpful because more colleges, they see that a college like IISc is conducting this program. More colleges will come. Tier 2, Tier 3, they're not doing anything. So y'all will lead the way to, the IITs are doing these programs. It will become important. We'll be able to get more people to, to take this. Yeah. If you can turn your cameras on, it'll be great. Otherwise, even if you don't turn your cameras on, it's fine because at least we will kind of record this so that we get more people to sign up for these trainings. It'll be helpful. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Probably unsharing the screen will help.
Yeah, if you unshare the screen, you will get everybody.
Oh, I have to unshare. Okay. Stop sharing. There you go. I've stopped. It's fine. Yeah. How are you, Dr. Anil Kumar? I hope to work with you to organize a gatekeeper training. We've been working with the IITs to organize gatekeeper suicide prevention training. These are certificate-based courses. They are pretty short, pretty effective. And after that, we can create a internal community of gatekeepers within IISc, and we can answer any questions. The wellness team can be part of it. We can have, we can have part of that team people from any aspect. Sometimes they need legal help because somebody will suddenly say, my boyfriend is threatening suicide, and they go and die. Sometimes they say, oh, they're threatening to release my photos. So we'll have legal help, and all of this is will be at no cost. Funding is not an issue. We just need your help and support.
Sure.
Mr. Nelson, can you also switch on your video, please?
Oh, my video is not on?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll take a screenshot as you said.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for a very nice talk. So if there are no more questions, maybe I will make a few announcements about various facilities available with Wellness Center. First and foremost, we do have a 24/7 hotline that's available. So that's specifically meant for mental health emergency.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and we have an online counseling available as well via Your Dost platform, and we also have in-house, counselors, 2 psychologists, 2 visiting psychiatrists, as well as 4 wellness coordinators who are trained in social work. So we have a built a decent team here, and of course we have to improve, and we are working on all those aspects as well.
That's fantastic.
And I encourage all the students and all the participants to visit the website. I will just type the website address, wellness.iisc.ac.in. Okay, and our wellness coordinators also organize monthly workshops. There was previous to this we had a workshop couple of last month as well, and the one every month we have been having some workshop or other. There was some gap because of the pandemic, but on an average we have one workshop every month, typically on Saturdays at 4 p.m. So again, look out for that. The next one will be in fact on next Saturday by a specialist from Enhance. Okay. So those are all various sort of facilities that the students can make use of. With that note, I will end. I would like to request Professor Adil Kumar to conclude the session.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nelson, for participating in this event. It was a very informative session, and we will look forward in collaborating with you. So we'll discuss the specifics. And thank you, Professor Vishwesha, for conducting this session. So Mr. Tamarai and Ms. Catherine and Ms. Sri Lakshmi and Mr. Rashid, they are staying in the hostels, and their contact numbers are available to the students. Please reach out to them for any help, apart from Sridhar and Savita, who are the campus psychologists. And also, if you visit the Wellness Center homepage, you will see we have 8 psychiatrists/psychologists from outside. They are on our panel, and the students can go to those people without any referrals. So you don't need absolutely no referrals from IISc. Only thing what you need is an ID card, and even you don't have to make a payment there because the bill will come to IISc directly. And there was certain concern that it could be approximately only 8 visits per year is sponsored there. But don't worry about that. There is absolutely no restriction. This is something we started with because this concept was not there earlier at IISc. So we started, so notionally we fixed 8. And in case if somebody feels that more counseling or more number of sessions are needed, you can write to Wellness Center and we will give you special permissions to go for, on a case-by-case basis. So that is also available. And soon you will see more activities from the Wellness Center. See, the institution can only provide platforms. As Professor Vishu said, 24/7 hotline where a trained psychologist will be taking your call on the other end. And within the next 2 to 3 weeks, you will all get phone calls from a trained psychologist from the Your Dost. So we have shared the telephone numbers of all the students who are staying in the hostel right now. So please respond to them, and please encourage your friends also to respond them. See, as Mr. Nelson was telling that, there's a solution for everything. It's not that, there's no solution. There's a solution for everything. Please encourage your friends, and soon you will have also training like, how to identify distress. You don't have to do any treatment. You don't have to do any counseling. Identify your friends who really need help, and then bring to the attention of the wellness coordinators who are staying along with you in the hostels, and also the psychologists in the campus, and the consultant psychiatrist or the psychiatrists from outside who are in our panel. So please help all of us, in the sense that IISc is making this platform. It is up to all of us to make sure that this platform is utilized fairly well. So please help yourself, please help your friends. And there is nothing wrong, as Mr. Nelson said, that if you have a fever, you will go to the doctor and get some tablets. Even if it is Dolo 500, you go to the hospital and they give you. Similarly, if you feel, he narrated, how to look for symptoms and how to look for your friends who may need help. So as a community, let us help each other. and make use of all the facilities that is available in the campus. We are also striving to improve the facilities in the campus even further, and we will also add more people to our panel. And also the number of visits, please note that only this is just started with 8 visits, roughly 8 visits. But if somebody needs more visits, definitely we will facilitate that. So everybody's mental health is our concern. So finally, let us make IISc a much, much better place. Thank you all for joining, and please respond to the phone calls that is coming to all of you. Within the next 2 to 3 weeks time, all the students staying in the campus will be contacted by a trained psychologist or a counselor, and please share your experience with them and your concerns with them, so that we understand what is further happening. And thank you all for your attention. Thank you, Mr. Nelson, once again. We will discuss further.
Thank you. It's been a great honor and a pleasure. I really congratulate the wellness team. They're doing great work, and by reaching out to students and by inviting me. Thank you very much. And I look forward to working with the Wellness Center. And I'm sure that the students will respond, because the work that you are doing, you're providing all kinds of access, the 24/7 helpline for medical emergencies, the counseling helpline, your own in-house counselors who are available, to them, as well as an external, panel of mental health professionals available. So there are so many options, and I think the students should utilize it, because it's so important, so that whatever it is that you're feeling, it's important to do it. So there is no need for stigma, and there is, once you're aware that something like this happened, stigma is stopping us from doing this. But what is surprising is that as I go to different colleges, when I go to, even in St. Joseph's, their entire booking for therapists is full, which is surprising, because I go to another college and they say that nobody comes to us. But when I go to Manipal Academy of Higher Education, their wellness center is actually located outside of campus in a beautiful house, because they have more land and space over there. They literally own the town. Over there, the wellness center is in a house. And it does not look like a wellness center. It doesn't even say wellness center. And Dr. Gayatri Prabhu, who runs the wellness center, we went and did a training for their team. Was just saying, the rooms also doesn't look like that. So please go and utilize it. I think great work being done. I must congratulate you for all your initiatives. And I learned a lot about how to do something like this. So thank you very much. If there's anything, please reach out to the wellness team. And I wish you all the very best. Please remember that, there is no early success. Most of successful, like I said, tech entrepreneurs do it when they're 45, 43, 45. Research suggests that most of scientific discoveries happen at that age. It's a cumulative effort. It takes a long time. Allow yourself to grow. You don't need to hit all your targets immediately. If you need to take a gap year, take the gap year. Magnus Carlsen, with the highest rated, chess champion ever, his family took him out of school when he was just about 14 or 15, and they traveled across the world. That's a gap year. In India, if somebody does that when you're 14 or 15, they will be like, the parents are mad, he's going to suffer. But it's fine. If you're 20 or 21 or 22, if you get a gap year, it should be perfectly fine. So thank you very much. And I will take your leave right now. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.